The first video in the section today is referring to perfect square trinomials. And just remember what a perfect square is. Those are your numbers like 16, 100, 49, things that when you take the square root, you get a whole number answer. So this particular trinomial probably doesn't look like a perfect square right now, but once we work with it, we're going to find out that it actually is. So just like perfect square numbers, we can have trinomials that can factor into perfect squares as well. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take 49. Remember, that's 7 times 7, so it can be written as 7 to the second power, 7 squared. So this example, this trinomial, will be able to be written as x plus something squared. And in order to first check this, you can always factor it the old way. So remember, this doesn't have a number out front, so that's good. There's a 1 there, makes things a lot easier. And the old school way would be to check for two numbers that multiply to 9 but add to 6. So we know that 3 does that job. So x plus 3 times x plus 3. And what we end up getting here is x plus 3 squared. Okay, so we can see that it is a perfect square. Now, here's how you do that without having to go the old school route. If you are wondering if you have a perfect square trinomial, check your first term and your last term. So this one and this one. If they are both perfect squares, that's the first thing that needs to be in check, and it is, because x times x is 1x squared. And 9 is also a perfect square because 3 times 3 is a perfect square, or gives us 9. So the next thing that you would then check is, does x times 3 plus x times 3 equal 6x? And it does. So this is how we know we have a perfect square trinomial. Okay? Do you have to use that shortcut? No. You can do it the old way like I just did the first time. However, when it gets a little bit more complex, if you are wondering if you have a perfect square trinomial, you can check it just like I did the second time. Because otherwise, what you're going to have to do with this is either go the direct route, which we did in 8-4, where we took the 4 times 49, found two factors of that product that added a negative 28, go the factor by grouping route, which you can do, there's nothing wrong with that. Or you'd have to do the guess and check route, where you'd have to say, okay, it's going to be 2x, 2x, and check your numbers of factors of 49 that you could throw in there, or maybe it's 4x and 1x with your factors of 49. So lots of different options, but if you are wondering if you have a perfect square trinomial, first, again, you'll want to check, is that a perfect square? And it is, because 2x times 2x is 4x squared. And this is also a perfect square because 7 times 7 gives me that 49. So then we would just check, and keep in mind here with this one, this is a negative 28. So we need two negatives to multiply to give me a 49, but add to a negative 28. So these both have to be negative. So we would just check, okay, does 2x times 7, which is negative 14x, plus 2x times negative 7, does that give me negative 28x? And it does when we add these two together. So we, again, have a perfect square trinomial, which would be 2x minus 7 times 2x minus 7, or you could write it also as 2x minus 7 to the second power. So that's how you check to see if you have a perfect square trinomial. But again, you can always do it the old school way. All right, one last example. One thing you'll always want to check too is see if you can divide something out of each number. So for instance, each term here can be divided by 9. So I can divide this by 9, this by 9, and this by 9. So you'll always want to do that first if possible. So divide everything by 9 and see what you're left with. Well, 9 divided by 9 is 1, so we just have x squared, or 1x squared, plus 54 divided by 9 is 6, and 81 divided by 9 is 9. And now this should actually look familiar, at least the inside part. If we go back to the example that we started with, that was this guy right here, x squared plus 6x plus 9, which we found out to be a perfect square trinomial. So our final answer will have a 9 on the outside, and what we would then do, let's say we didn't know that this was a perfect square trinomial, we would have to factor that, and we do know that it comes out to x plus 3 times x plus 3 based off of the first example. Or another way we could write this is 9 times x plus 3 squared. So a bunch of different things to check when factoring. And again, if you think you have a perfect square, you can use those shortcuts. But remember, you can always just factor it like we have been, either the direct route or the guess and check route, and you should come out to the same answer either way. So whatever you're more comfortable with.